start the stream. And for those of you that don't need it for the week before, y'all can just take it on the normal schedule. Okay. So before we start, just since I've got let me make sure the stream's going though. I need to ensure where. Oh no, did I close? Oh no, I did. Okay. Do. Okay, that is running. All right, one more time. There. Okay, so for my online students, they're still taking the test. They've got until like Sunday to finish it because Blackboard is Blackboard, and I make sure they have plenty of time. So today is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do a little bit of notes today. We're going to do the first few slides in this chapter. And normally we would watch like a small video on the Homestead strike. But due to some things that have been happening both at home and everywhere, you'll get it when we get there. We're going to watch a different video, and it has to do with American history. Technically, thematically, I would show it more towards the end of the semester. But honestly, I don't know if the video will be up by the end of the semester due to things that are currently happening. So I'm going to show it to you now. When by now, I mean at the end of the class. The video will not be on any test. It's not extra credit. It is more important than the class. So when we get to it, we'll get to it. So let's go over the notes first. As usual for my online students, I'll cut the stream before we do the thing because I don't want it to screw up my whole stream, and I'll put the link on Blackboard. I'll put the link on Blackboard for you guys too, so you can go to it again if you need to. And it's for the students that weren't here today. It's extremely important. So, with all that said, let's start the notes. Right. So this is chapter 17. We're doing the Industrial Revolution again, but now from the side of the workers. So 1877 to 1900 again. Like we saw with the big corporations, the working people realized that they needed to organize as well for their own political and economic leverage. They formed labor unions, political parties, engaged in collective actions like strikes, which we'll get into that. Like I said, we normally would have towards the end of the class, but I've got this stuff we got to talk about. However, it was difficult for these organizations to maintain the power they needed due to internal conflicts, occupational status, race, ethnicity, and gender. So they had a hard time fighting back against the big corporations and the federal government, which the federal government, 9 times out of 10, backed the big corporations. Surprise, surprise. And as I kind of talked about before, not just in the industrialization of like the machines with the big factories, trains and all of that, but the people themselves were industrialized, which caused a pretty major like psychological impact on the workers. So 1870, there were only a few factories that employed more than 500 workers. By 1900, there were 1,500 companies that had workforces of 500 or more. Places like General Electric, International Harvester, Pullman Pallets Car Company, U.S. Steel, which we'll talk about pretty much all of these to some extent going forward. So in about 1865, there was about 5.3 million workers in industries, while by 1900 the number had gone up, had roughly tripled to 15.1 million, which again, obviously, with that 0.3, it messes it up a little bit, but 5 to 15, more or less. So there were two groups that fed into this industrial labor. The first group was farmers. And now, granted, the farmers were themselves two distinct groups. Either white families that were unable to make a profit because, well, the land was had been over-farmed, as we've seen not just earlier this semester, but in the last semester. And then also people basically flooding the market, and then now they can't make a profit and they have to sell their land. Or former slaves who are trying to get away from sharecropping, because sharecropping is a form of farming that is meant to keep you poor. Sharecropping isn't a way to make money and get by, it's a way to keep the people poor. The other group was immigrants, mostly from Europe, initially from the north and west, England, Ireland, Germany, and Scandinavia, and then later from the south and east, Austria-Hungary, Greece, Italy, and Russia. This part, I was pointing to the thing with my mouse, so all my students. We won't talk much about the immigrants this chapter, because that's the entire next chapter. So we'll put a pin in this. We'll mostly be talking about the workers as a whole, but this is going to just bookmark that for next chapter, because that's the whole thing. So here we've got various workers' unions doing their marches. They've got their own banners and stuff. Strike called all unions to go out. Again, we'll talk more about what strikes are and how they work next time. Garment workers on strike. National Labor Agency. And you've got like collective action, where you work together, you're stronger than when you work alone. And there again is GE, in case you didn't remember what that was. It's hard to put in a single picture what GE is, because they do all sorts of crap. Pullman Palace Car Company. They make train cars. They make fancy pants train cars. They're not around anymore. They make what would be like first class train cars. This reminds me of like my grandmother's living room, where everything's upholstered, including like the walls and ceiling. I've got a bunch of pictures of these because they're just so weird looking. I've been on a train recently here in the U.S. I have to assume the tracks must have been better back then, because this would be really loud with how rough the tracks are today. Just all this crap jingling around. Again, this is a train car with like lounge chairs in it. Yeah, fancy. There's another one here. There's a steel mill for U.S. Steel. We will 100% get back to this next time. And then the immigrants coming in on the ships. Oh, I didn't get to McCormick Reaper. What was it called? International Harvester. So they made McCormick Reapers, which are basically like combine harvesters. Initially it was just like pulled by a team of horses, eventually pulled by tractors. I mean, we still have those today. um, where it like harvests the crops, usually wheat, um, knocks the wheat from the chaff, and then also like bundles it all in the same machine. It does in like a couple of minutes what used to take multiple days to do. Because like you would have one team go through and cut it down, and then like the next day the team would come through and like bundle it up, and then you would carry it to um, like the mill, and then like beat it out to get the wheat from the chaff, and try to separate it, and it would take literally days. um, this did it in a couple of minutes, just like by riding through the field. It changed the face of agriculture in the United States, just like with one device. um, it was so revolutionary, we sent it to the World Fair in England, in London. um, like it was our big thing. Like we've got the light bulb. Like who gives a crap? We've got the McCormick Reaper. It changed the face of like our whole economy there for a while. It was a big deal. Speaking of immigration, I've got a little GIF here of the source of immigrants changing over time. And next chapter, I have like an actual graph of like where the various, like how much of each group we've got. Look how much of it is Germany until like literally 2000. It's a lot of Germany. And then of course, Ireland too. We have so much immigrant stuff even today. It's like, the people coming in to take your jobs. It's like, yeah, well, we weren't so worried about actually, people were worried about the Europeans. Again, we'll get to the video. But like now, the people who are worried about these other people are descended from these people. So, yeah. Anyway, as I said, these systems of work underwent major changes. These unskilled laborers, people who, typically were the ones lifting boxes or plowing fields, oftentimes immigrants were dealing with unfamiliar, unpleasant, and dangerous work. And being immigrants, they often didn't even speak English, so they were further unfamiliar with what was going on. There was, of course, no kind of governmental benefits, no workers' comp, no unemployment insurance, so if you were injured or laid off of work, you were just out of luck. And further, if you were injured, you didn't work there anymore. That was just it. You got your arm crushed in a machine, well, I guess you don't work here anymore because you need two arms. If you were a skilled worker, if you were an artisan, back in the days of guilds and whatnot, you were a little bit better off. You had your own tools. You could work at your own pace. But as things were becoming further and further mechanized, they started losing out too. The vast collectivization of work meant they had to work on a certain timetable. They had to manufacture to a certain standard. There was a mechanist in Lowell, Massachusetts, quit after he was told he had to arrive at the opening bell. The doors were locked, and he couldn't leave until quitting time, which he called a system of slavery. Now, if you think that people being locked inside a factory until quitting time sounds dangerous, don't worry, we'll get there. So overall, workers were making a little better money than they were farming. But of course, things were not equal. Skilled workers would pay more than unskilled workers, white workers would pay more than black workers, and men were paid more than women because, again, it's the 1800s. Also, child labor, which we've already talked about a couple of times already this semester. Children were part of the process. Sometimes they worked 12 hours a day for less than $1 a day because, again, you don't have to pay children. Who cares? Let them work for 12 hours a day and earn $1, just like the good old days. Yeah, just a reminder. This is what the days of no regulations look like. Just wanna throw that out there for people who are paying attention. Um, so here's your basic like early assembly line job. This is terrifying. This is a steel mill with a pneumatic hammer. We've never seen a pneumatic hammer at work. Um, yeah, this thing just lifts up and it slams back down while these guys turn a piece of molten metal that's being hammered out because that's how steel is made. Um, in the modern day, we still have these. They're a little different now, but we still have these. If something happens, there is a kill switch. You hit the switch. Usually it's a big red button because, hit the big red button to turn the thing off, and it stops. Back then, not so much. You get caught in this thing, well, you're losing whatever got caught in it. And now from this distance, it's hard to really tell how big this thing is. This is a smaller version, just to show you how much these things dwarf humans. And you had to be right up on them. Although this appears to be making, they're stamping out, looks like World War I era helmets. These are the skilled laborers. It looks like they're doing glass blowing. But yeah, these are the guys that are fighting back against mechanization because they don't want their jobs taken. But, well, they're out of luck. Again, it's not them dirty immigrants taking their jobs. It's the machines because the people running the factories are going to pay far less for the machines than they are for the skilled laborers. There's a, I don't know, 8-year-old. Looks like he's de-shelling oysters. And if you've ever been to an oyster bar, you know how sharp that knife would be. But it's okay, he's 6. He can regrow his fingers. Also, extremely important in the coal mining industry. A lot of times there would be like chutes that were too small for grown men to go down, so these are the kids. Because again, the kids don't need their lungs. So, all of this led to this. To achieve better working conditions and wages, many workers formed unions. Of course, employers insisted that they and their workers shared identical interests, which is, a lie. I try to be non-biased and let you guys draw your own conclusions, but I'm not going to be non-biased about this. That's a lie. Employers are a bunch of liars. They're obligated to set wages and conditions on their workers' best interest because, paying a child $1 a day for this is, 12 hours a day for $1 a day. That's in the child's best interest. Obviously, they were more than happy to organize a stamp out competition or lobby for governmental benefits, but they saw union organization as unlawful and immoral because apparently people working together for their own benefit is immoral. They wouldn't negotiate with labor unions, which was known as collective bargaining, and considered them illegitimate. Which, by the way, is still a thing. Like, in certain states, including this one, labor unions are, I wouldn't say illegal, but very nearly almost. When I worked upstate as security for GE, there was like this rumor that there were going to be some labor union guys like across the street, not even on our property, like with material, like labor union material, and to like not go near them. And if any of the workers from the site were to go across the street and talk to them, to write their names down, which felt really weird. And also, what really got me was I typically work night shift, and one of the guys, well, during lunch break, the guys like to play cornhole, with the little board and the like sandbag. It's a weird name. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. And the guy who usually brought the boards was a volunteer firefighter. And so one of his boards was painted up like the crest of the firehouse that he worked at, which was fine. I mean, firefighters are great, and he's a volunteer, and I mean, who can argue with that? Well, apparently, it came to the attention of the higher ups that this emblem, this crest, was a symbol of like a firefighters union, and because it was a firefighters union, they told him he had to either paint over it or he couldn't bring it into work. Like, it had nothing to do with a union for GE, but because it was a symbol for a union for something else entirely, he couldn't even bring it on the property. So, yeah, this isn't some bygone era where, like, oh, yeah, this isn't even a thing anymore. Like, depending on the state, it's still very much like something you don't talk about. Yeah, it was this weird, like, taboo thing. You don't even talk about unions at GE. So, the first union we're going to talk about is the Noble Order of the Knights of Labor, founded by Uriah Stevens in 1869. They were not the first labor union, but they were one of the largest, and they're the first ones we're going to talk about, so there they are. I imagine probably one of the first labor unions was probably in Britain, because they were, one of the first, well, they were the first country to, like, have industry. Anyway, Terence Powderly became the Grand Master in 1879. Is when they really started getting big. They pushed for an 8-hour workday, abolition of child labor, equal pay for women. They accepted African Americans, immigrants, except for Chinese. Now, to be fair, this was the 1870s, 1880s. The Chinese weren't even like American citizens anymore, so they had to draw a line somewhere. And yeah. And also they accepted women as members. So, like, for the 1870s, 1880s, this was extremely progressive. So membership soared. However, there was a rally at the Haymarket Square, which, let's see, May 3rd, 1886, police killed 2 strikers in a clash between union members and strikebreakers who tried to cross picket lines. So there was a rally at Haymarket Square led by anarchists who tended to be much more violent than union members. Long story short, this rally was meant to call out police violence against, workers. When the crowd had dwindled, police tried to break the crowd up. Someone tossed a bomb, which, when it went off, the police shot into the crowd. Let's see. When the smoke cleared, 7 policemen and 4 protesters lay dead. Most of the fatalities and injuries resulted not from the bomb, but from police crossfire after the explosion. Because, as we've seen, police are really good at shooting each other. Yeah. Still, though, this rally, this protest, was seen as being associated with the Haymarket, or sorry, not Haymarket Square, with the Knights of Labor. So it sullied their reputation. And by the mid 1890s, there were less than 20,000 members, down from nearly 1 million. So, due to the Haymarket Square incident, the Knights of Labor pretty much lost their prestige. Here is their emblem. You're going to see a lot of this where they write the slogan like completely around it, so it's a pain in the butt to read. That is the most perfect government in which an injury to one is the concern of all, which is, all well and good, but why is it written around like that? So you've got North and South America here, and then also Australia. And whatever this little landmass is there, that's not New Zealand, because New Zealand's down there. So I don't know what that's supposed to be. So there's the mass meeting tonight, Haymarket Square, and then again in German, because a lot of the workers were German immigrants. And also the anarchists that set up the whole thing were German immigrants. As the book puts it, not all immigrants were anarchists, but most of the anarchists were immigrants. So that's what caused a lot of the issues. So here is a depiction of the explosion, which the way the book describes it, it really wasn't that big, but again, propaganda. All right, a little more union stuff. So Powder Lane the Knights disavowed the use of strikes, but another group, the American Federation of Labor, liked to use strikes. They were also more discerning with their members. They only employed the highest paid and skilled craftsmen. They left out women, African Americans, and immigrants, so they didn't include unskilled laborers either. They only wanted like the highly skilled workers, the ones that are already getting paid well. So they wanted better hours and better wages to share in the wealth of industrial capitalism. But still, only 1 in 15 workers belonged to a union, due largely to the power of corporations and the federal government. Because, well, when the corporations and government are working together, that can be pretty intimidating. I mean, like I said, it was just GE being really weird about the unions was kind of intimidating. Diversity of workers, as I said, made organizing more difficult. The racial, cultural, ethnic, and gender divides made it so that the unions often wouldn't work together, which we'll get to a union a little bit later that's more like the Knights of Labor, where they're more inclusive, and also like the American Federation of Labor, willing to use strikes. So they're not only inclusive, but they're willing to get stuff done. All goods bearing this label are guaranteed union made. The AFL, or AF of L, which is terrible. American Federation of Labor. Strike has failed. Go back to work. So here we have, I feel like was this one in the book, or was I just remembering it because, I think I was just because I was looking at it. Yeah, okay. So here we have a couple of workers and what they're being paid a day. Like, here's $1 a day, and then what they want to be paid, like, $5, $3. This is what, like $8.25, and then you've got, this goes up to like 5,000. Wants $1 million, and then here's worth 50. worth 50 what, million? Yeah. I want the earth. You can just because I have all the money, I want everything now. So yeah, quite a bit of things going on here with the various unions and how they organize. We've got a few more things, but unfortunately, the next part would require me to show you. Well, I wouldn't say require, but it has the really fun video that has uh, that has Frick beating the crap out of a guy. So we'll do that one on Monday. So let's go to the video I want to show you guys. Like I said, I will put the link up on Blackboard as well for the people who aren't here, as well as for my online students. I'm also going to turn the lights down just a little bit because it's in black and white, so it's a little bit hard to see. Yeah, so, all right. Online students, I'm going to end the stream. Again, please do check the thing out. It's very important. I can't emphasize that enough.